Hi everyone, this is Breizh Whisky Guide, aka Grégoire, in English. I decided to do a summarizing of my two videos in French about this French distillery that many of you know by the name of ARMORIK instead of the founder name and the old name WARENGHEM. Because I thought it was interesting to still give you some material in English, because I don't work subtitles and stuff, and also I'm not gonna say exactly the same in French and in English necessarily, because some expressions are not easily available abroad to start with, or simply because I have things to say specifically to the French audience, right? But I'm gonna summarize, and I have a glass problem, so I don't have four identical glasses. So I said, okay, let's summarize this and give you three whiskeys. I'm gonna try three whiskeys, French whiskeys for you from the WARENGHEM Distillery, aka ARMORIK. And I think it will be already good to give you an idea of what they do. And also I recently updated my website, breizhwhiskyguide.com, with really new information, and so two new tasting notes, 2 out of 3 of these, by the way. The other one is in the website already on the left menu, while those two will be in the front page, not in the front page, but in a topic called Focus, Gros Plan / Focus, right? Anyway, there will be a link under the video in the description, so don't worry about it. You will know everything you want about the distillery. I'm gonna still introduce it shortly to you, as short as possible. I know my videos are long, apologize again, but and then I will try 3 expressions that I think are really worth checking out, and 3 that are still available today, while the others might not necessarily be, and especially in foreign markets. But I will present you everything I have from the distillery quickly. Before that, yes, I have to tell you, I will alternate for a few months, let's say, videos in French and in English about French whiskies, because I've get to know a bit better the offer, and I waited also a bit. I was a bit disappointed about the offer outside this beautiful distillery, and another one we'll see another time, called Glenarmor, which is my favorite French distillery still now. But those are for Brittany, from Brittany, by the way, the initial area from which first French whiskies came in, French serious and sustained, etc. whiskey came from. So I will do longer videos and more detailed videos and more numerous videos in French, but it will be stated with a French flag, like I did earlier on. So you know that it's not a whiskey review in English. And for the others, it will be as usual. Maybe I will add in English for those who wonder. I don't know. But that's it for the general introduction. Now about the distillery, and bear in mind it's not the current packaging. The bottles, this is the current packaging of the blended whiskey, the one you will find in UK and elsewhere, most probably. Not in every market, I know. This is the current shape of the label. It has changed a lot since this, you can see, and even the first ones. The regular expressions of ARMORIK, the single malt brand, the ARMORIK is stated higher, and there's a blank, almost blank label and a few lines, like this. Looks more like this. You see, with the 5 lines suggesting maritime whiskey. And so yeah, Very quickly on the distillery, and once again there is much more details on my website. I will put a link below. WARENGHEM family, the owner, the founder, were from north of France. So they were from there, somewhere there. While the distillery is located here in north of Brittany. And by the way, spoiler, this is the French map by the Federation of French Whisky, and all the underlined in yellow names you see are the distilleries for which I have a bottle for or a sample of, and that I will cover very soon in French and summarized in English. I will probably do several brands in a row for some videos in English, because they're not distilleries or companies I have a lot of whiskies of, while this I have quite some from this distillery and from Glenarmor, and they deserve a special number about them only. But this distillery was founded in 1900, and initially it was liqueur and eau de vie, so fruit spirit, if you like, distillery. So they do the elixir of ARMORIK, for instance, which is made with botanicals and honey. Then they made a lot of things based on local fruit production, whether it's strawberries, mint, or other honey-based spirits or liqueurs. And then it's only in 1983 that they do break things with very unexpected and very new for France blended whiskey called Whiskey Breton. And what's interesting about this is that it is still available, and not sure, in some supermarkets, but I'm not going to talk too much about it to the English audience, because they don't know probably about it. This was distilled around 83 and released in first time in 1987. And it was a shock to the French audience, because it was not tasting like Ballantine's or Johnny Walker. It was that have more green and maritime elements, which was a bit strange, and some people liked it right from the start. Others hated it, also because it was supermarkets, so supposed not to be good, which is stupid, but it's still a cliche that's on today. What's the other interesting thing about this whiskey that I used to buy for years, and they're very nice on ice as well, yes. It's also because it is something that is not stated on the label, but mind you, the same in English, in England and Scotland. It is a single blend. So the distillery produces the grain and the malt. They produce the grain, which is wheat instead of corn, and they produce the malted, the barley, which is malted. So it's a single blend French blended whiskey. Right, around 10-12 euros it was when I started to buy it in 2000, early 2000, or even less before that. 40% ABV, not sure it's colored, I don't think so, or just slightly. Chill filtered, yes. Very nice, nice baked apples, nice sea breeze. It's a distillery that's not far from the sea, so it has some maritime influence. Later on, the distillery released in I don't have the date here, around 2008, I think. They did this 50% malt, 50% grain. It's double distilled in pot stills that are quite like the malt. I mean, this is quite similar to Scottish ones, I have to say. Forgot to say. 42% ABV instead of 40. This is 50% grain, 50% malt. This is one of the best blended whiskey ever, any country-wise, period. 93 out of 100. It still beats a lot of Scottish whiskies, I have to say. It's still available in the online shop of the distillery. Highly recommended. Very gourmet, even better than the one I'm going to talk to you about, but it's less available. This abroad, even if I'm going to tell you something if I don't forget. Yeah, let's say it right now. In the US, there's I think it's Heavenly Spirits Company, something like that. Distribute them into the US, but it's not it's recent. And since a few years, 2 or 3, you can find this in the UK through Gordon and MacPhail, huge indie bottler. So it's very interesting now. You can find more good French whiskies abroad, right? What else to say? I don't have it on the table because the bottle is over for a moment, but since a long time, let's say ARMORIK single malt, the main single malt brand is called ARMORIK, by the way, which is related to geographically to France. And in 1998, they released the first single malt, French single malt as well. First distillery to produce whiskey, by the way. Have I said it right away? I say it again. First French distillery to produce whiskey and to release it widely in France is WARENGHEM Distillery. I have to summarize this. Today, Whiskey Breton and every brand uses local or national barley and grain. All cereals are non-GMO and all are, since 2020, they're all organic as well. About distillery production, mash tun, washback, etc. You will find the details on with a link to my website. I'm not going to go too much in this. Usually they use ex-bourbon or ex-sherry cask, but sometimes this version, we're not going to speak much today, double maturation version is also in uses Brittany oak. It's a bit more woody expression. It's a good one. It's not my favorite one. Those 3 are among the best and the most. Those 2 most easy to find, let's say. They also use sometimes port, Madeira, Palo Cortado sherry, even mead, which is called chouchen in French, to finish the whiskies, maturation. In terms of last thing to say about the distillery itself, production capacity, you have to bear in mind that if we put all the French whiskies distilleries together, even with now around 40, some say 82, I don't believe it, 40 are in current production, around 40. There's also around 10 in debottling companies. Regulations are a bit loose. There's only regulations about 2 areas of France. And not every distillery from this area did apply to respect the regulations. Brittany here, there's a special indication of protected geography indication for this area, and Alsace here. It's the 2 only areas of France that have regulations about whiskey. Otherwise, it's more general regulations about spirit. But what I wanted to say, it's all this production of all these distilleries, they do less than Springbank, for instance, 750,000 liters per year. Scottish distilleries, so they do less. They all do less alcohol, millions of liters of alcohol than this distillery, which is not the biggest one. We're talking for the biggest one in malt. 21 million of liters of Glenlivet. Now, this one is though, having said that, this is the biggest French distillery in terms of capacity of productions so far. There's a lot of things going on now, so might change, but 180,000 liters per year, but it's still under what was called the smaller Scottish distillery at the time, which is not true now. Edradour produces 260,000 liters per year, so it's still more than WARENGHEM. And there's around 20 distilleries that are smaller in Scotland. Probably the smallest one must be Avengerag, something like that. Sorry for the pronunciation. Okay, enough introduction now. So, things to keep in mind: 1987 French blended whiskey, released in history of French whiskey, is the Whiskey Breton. So basically, Brittany whiskey. First single malt 1998. Now let's get on to the more. Yeah, around 10 years ago, something like that, they did release what is one of their most important references, the Breizh Whisky. Breizh means in Brittany language, Brittany, simply. Breizh Whisky. And this one is one of the highest proportion of malted barley in the market, even for Scottish blends. Blended whiskies, 65% of malt, 35% of grain. So 65 malted barley, 35 of wheat. 42% ABV, priced around 35 euros. So it's a bit higher than regular blends, but it's also more malt in it, so it's obvious. Style-wise, it can be a bit compared to the great Kin Street from Compass Box, I have to say. Some spicy side of it reminds a bit of Clynelish that's in the heart of this blend. I didn't even think of saying that in French, in the French version, but there you have exclusive content. So I've picked this. I've picked also the classic, which is my favorite core range whiskey of this distillery. Let me put those three just behind it. There's also a sherry finish. This is the old supermarket version at 40%. The 46% is more powerful. It's maybe more satisfying for the geeks out there. It's a bit less smooth than this one. It has a bit less charm, but it's still very good. But I wanted to focus on those three. This one being the novelty, or let's say late 2020, that you still can find, but you have to search for online shops in France. But yeah, these are the three ones I wanted to present you. We're gonna try first one, the Breizh Whisky. So on the nose, typically estery profile of the distillery, not on every reference, but on the single malt and on the blended whiskies. Nice English licorice, all sorts, nice banana, pineapple, pear eau de vie, vanilla also, a lot of vanilla. Some citrus fruit on the background, some herbal touch and spices, ginger. This one is bourbon oak, mostly matured, ex-bourbon. So very lovely nose, pleasant nose. You can see the color, it's quite clear. Not sure it's caramel colored, chill filtered. This one is, while the two others are not. The single malts are not. Santé, we say in French instead of slange. Crisp and clear, direct. Yeah, a bit Clynishy. Very nice, complex, a bit herbal, a bit spicy, vanilla, fruit, a lot of, forgot to say, apples, one of the characteristic of the distilleries, baked apples and fresh apples, yellow apples, red apples as well, a few pears on the background, maybe tiny exotic style, less than on the nose. All in all, beautifully made whiskey, quite complex, quite well made. Like I said, not so far from the Great King Street. Really recommend this. I haven't made a face-to-face. It might be worth doing it between those two. I'm gonna try with a few drops of water. Then again, if you can get your hands on the Galeg, I know it's more difficult, but get directly to this because it's a masterpiece. If it's still like the one I have here, of course, there can be batch variations as always. Wow, it's even better weather. A lot of charm, floral notes come through. They're really marrying with the vanilla that gets more smooth and charming as well. Still the signature apple note comes in. It's complex, it's refined, it's not a raw whiskey, it's not in your face. It's a complex and rich single malt, no, blended malt, sorry, blended whiskey. You see, the mind doesn't want to understand it's a blended whiskey because it doesn't taste like a regular blended whiskey from Scotland, let's say this way. A lovely, lovely whiskey, really recommend it. Nice vanilla and a bit almond sugar aftertaste. And you put a bit more water. Yeah, so I'm gonna do this way each time. Every 2 or 3 French videos about French whiskies, I will try to summarize a bit. Not necessarily about only one distillery, but this one is the most important historically. This also is one of the first I discovered, so, and I have a lot of bottles from these. Why don't I have the latest packaging? Because I have a bottle in advance for this and for this, so and for this, so it wasn't necessary for me to buy more and get the latest packaging, which I'm not very fond of, to be honest, at the same time, except this. 90 out of 100, no less than that is my rating. So moving on now to the next one. I will present you now my favorite of the range, which is the classic. And the interesting thing, even if the packaging has changed, for the English audience is that the distillery always tries to provide bilingual material informations on the box or tube to help you understand. And even there, you see on the back label, if you can focus, please. Sorry, it doesn't want to focus. So this one is made of refill bourbon, and according to some sources it can have other cask types, but this isn't very transparent, I have to say, about this. First I thought there was some sherry cask involved, and they say no, and then now they say in the box several cask type involved. So anyway, it's a very good whiskey, and it some single cask of ARMORIK reached 94 or 92 out of 100. The highest rates I ever gave to 93 or so, yeah. to this company. But single cask, as you know, they fly and they go quick. But on current references, core range best rate is 92 out of 100 for this. Yes, I'm not kidding. And again, please check out on my website my scoring system, because you might not understand why the rates are so high. I go until 100 out of 100. And I have a special way of scoring, so I explain all that on my website. And also I gave some comparisons if you want to, because I know Serge Valentin a bit from Whiskey Fun. I also give comparisons. It's very subjective, of course, but I give some comparisons with some famous reviewers to give you an idea of how I score compared to them, usually based on the same whiskies. So usually Serge will give 4 or 6 points less than I give, but at the same time, on some references, I can be on par exactly, or 1 point difference with him and with Ralphie Mitchell, for instance. It depends on the whiskies. It depends also on what I expect from the whiskey, and also I have a subjective note inside my 9 criterias, and it's a pleasure note, not a value note, but it's pleasure value, if I may say, note. Even if the whiskey is not super complex, but it's super good, super pleasant to drink, it will influence the rating. I try to change it, but after 3,800 or so tasting, it's too difficult now to change. So I tend in my videos often to drop the rating and not talk much about the rating. But this has to be done, however, to let you know how I feel about these compared to Scottish ones, right? Hoping I'm not biased because it's French. So lovely nose, again, the trademark from the company, the baked apples, an elegant and classic, a bit spicy but not too much, a bit floral but not too much, and nicely fruity as well profile. So Classic was released, first release in 2011, 46% non-chill filtered. La Maison du Whisky did push to do this, and I thought for some time it was exclusive to them, but it is not. And it has now, it is in the good supermarket shelves. You can find this around 45 euros. It was released at 35 euros, which was a bargain. Age statement, I forgot to speak, 4 to 8 years old. But often French whiskies, depend which distilleries, they don't need necessarily a lot of age to be good. And the 10 years old ARMORIK, for instance, we came very late, a few years ago only, 8 years ago only, despite the distillery distilled since 1983. Is good, but isn't as good as this, in my opinion. So, sorry. Sometimes you don't need a lot of years to be good. Okay. Santé instead of Slangeva again. Oh my God. I don't know how they do this, but they know how to do it good. Really beautiful. It's almost smoky. I don't understand, because suppose not to be peated. They do also peated expressions, forgot to mention maybe. One I have tried, which was half of the cask were peated, was really nice, but not super spectacular. Let's see. The other most recent I haven't tried, because all these closed shows because of COVID did change things. It's heavily peated like an Ardbeg. But I haven't tried it yet. I know some reviewers were disappointed, but I haven't tried it. This one is really super balanced, super expressive, beautifully fruity. The fruit comes on the front. There's some quince, there's some yellow fruits, peach, golden, it's the name of the apple, golden, also some red apples, some pears on the background as well. A bit, they do have, you know, like if you were doing the note that maybe the closest is when you how do you say it in French? In English, I mean, and I'm gonna be in trouble again. But when you do, you take something to do some. Oh man, do I have to stop and start again the video? Let me try to check out in English. I feel so bad when it's like that all the time. It's honestly, it's painful. I don't prepare everything I say, so I have to check out sometimes. It's like I was doing a live. I know it's not professional at all. I'm just a YouTuber. I'm not grated. Okay, apologies. Grated apples. You will prepare something, a dessert with the grated apples, fresh golden apples. That's the thing I have here, and it's awesome. There you go. Okay, a few drops. Oh my god, I can't believe the hour. Lots of vanilla, some esters also. Well, this clear, crystal clear golden apple note wins it all for me. Very elegant, sophisticated, beautiful profile. I hope the recent batches are like that. Honestly, I'm not sure 100%, but really recommend this beautiful whiskey. If you have to pick only one from this distillery, that's the one, the classic. Now on to something a bit more special that you might be troubling more to find, but if you go on the Comptoir Irlandais website, online shop, or as well, that probably you can order from abroad. I don't know honestly, but it's a limited edition now to 2,000 bottles, so it's not core range, with this nice maritime bag, which shows more the style of the labels now. This is 7 years old, distilled 2013, bottled 2020. 7 years old, ARMORIK single malt, matured in ex-bourbon cask, finished in Madeira, sweet wine casks. Bottles at 46% ABV, non-chill filtered, and, excuse me, with special label designed by Gilles Java, an artist, and with a few pictures from the distillery. Lovely label, I think. It was made for the Maritime Festival International, but in Brittany, Festival of old bottles, old boats, beautiful. Back label is this, displaying a bit more about the content, but not in English, I'm sorry. Oh, very interesting, and just notice it now, my god. It's the thing with video, there's no added caramel, but it doesn't say on the front label. Okay, result on the glass is this. I usually love Madeira finishes. That's why immediately when I saw the beautiful label and also it was Madeira finished, I said, oh, I gotta jump on this one, even if I haven't tried it. This one was 59 euros in that shop. It can be found online. It will be more difficult, of course, to find this, but for me it's worth picking it, and you will see this one, spoiler, on my Whiskies of the Year 2020, where you will see several French whiskies, I have to say, very soon. So immediately you got the bourbon and the Madeira influence. You got some vanilla, some sweet spices, but also that kind of green oxidative with some fruits as well, influence of the Madeira. Something almost leatherish, hard to describe. Very elegant, very classy nose, and very genuine. And not for everyone. It has a kind of funk that may not appeal to everyone. Probably more to Springbank lovers, I have to say. It has almost, it is not smoky, but it's almost smoky nose. It's leathery. Okay, let's go on the palate. Cheers. On the palate, on the back end, they're a bit winey side, shows but not too much. I like the fact that you have the golden apples, the styles from the classic, a bit less exuberant, but you have also a layer of Madeira influence. Some tea, some green elements, forest moss and stuff. You got some quince, you got some floral notes, but it's floral and green influence, and sweet spices. The finish is not super long. This is the downside of it. I give it a 91. I was a bit disappointed. The finish is not super long. If it was longer, I have to say it was gone higher in the scoring, of course. Started 91.5 and now it's 91. I have tried it 3 or 4 times already. But lovely whiskey. 2,000 bottles only, did I say that? The best part of it is the middle of the palate, I have to say. Believe it or not. I'm gonna put very few drops, because 2 or 3, because it's I don't enjoy it much diluted. I prefer it neat 46%. It's almost perfect for this whiskey. As the finish is not super long, water will drown it a bit. Very, very slightly winey side. Fortunately not much, unlike some other whiskies. Beautiful elegance. Some kind of sugars coming back, not too much. But they come from, you feel they come from fruits, fresh and baked fruits. Maybe almost in tin cans of syrup. It's almost, the oxidative side of Madeira gives it almost an Old Pulteney style. Touch, let's say, not style. But it's still Warenghem, it's still ARMORIK. And I think it's an interesting expression. There you have it. Sorry, it's even longer than I thought. I did 4 single malts in the French version about single malts from the distillery, and I did 3 blended whiskies, so it's almost 2 hours or 1.5 or more that I condensed in 39 minutes, so I stopped there. Thanks for watching. I hope it was interesting about giving you the envy to discover French whiskey to start with, and see you soon.